One of the most important pieces of a woman's life is her nervous system. We regulate our children with it. We use it on a daily basis to work through things like stress and overwhelm.
I'm just fixing.
I love that. When our nervous system is in a constant state of fight or flight, we are dysregulated. We don't have the ability to calm ourselves down. What happens is we aren't able to be there for our children. And I believe that this is critical for us mamas because we are shaping our child's nervous system. And before you say, okay, well, crap, I've messed my kid up, there is always room to heal it, to fix it. And it starts with you. So today I'm going to be taking you guys through my notebook. Recently I've been just keeping a notebook with all my ideas and my notes as I'm reading things or researching things, and I recently have been very interested in the female physiology, the nervous system, our cycles, and how this all plays a role into our life. And I think the number one thing that I see across the board is this softening, this ability to kind of melt into motherhood. I think we are so gravitated as women towards things like slow living, minimalism. Maybe it's this idea of the nervous system, because I think we know deep in our core that these are the things that our children also need to thrive, to learn how to grow up, to be an emotionally stable human. Emotional intelligence is huge, but we can't teach their nervous system how to regulate without us being regulated and knowing how to regulate ourselves. And so, yeah, it's been really cool for me in my journey to see myself shift into this softness, to shift into this idea that I am not meant to be, hard and having a lot of necessarily structure. I think there's parts of that we do need, but I think that sometimes I would get too far into the masculine. If you're familiar with feminine and masculine energy, the masculine is definitely more structured, and I tend to lean that way. I think that is my default. It's easier to go that way. So to actually learn how to be in the feminine, which is a soft, nurturing, kind of ooey gooey like feeling, how do I get into that? How do I soften? And so today I'm going to share with you those things. I have 5 things here of kind of what my idea of softening looks like. I also should mention here, this doesn't mean my whole day and my whole life is just soft. I'm going for a softer approach to my day, but that doesn't mean that it's like that all day long, because obviously I need to get stuff done. There does need to be some structure. Kids do need that and they thrive off that, but it's finding that balance. And that's what I'm going to share today. So the first thing that I think we can do as mamas to kind of soften is to have rhythms. To let go of this idea that it needs to be so structured. I'm totally type A, so I've been drawn to these ideas of schedules and those kinds of things. But what I realized when I started to unstructure my life, I felt freer. I felt the ability to actually get more done because it was more in my feminine energy, right? I was tapping into that. And so the huge shift I made was I have things that I want to get done in a certain time of the day. So in the morning, I have some things that I would like to get done, but they have no order. I can do them at any time during that block, so to speak, during that time of day. And so some days it looks like, putting the dishes in the sink first because maybe the night before it was a late night and I didn't get to them. Maybe that's the last thing I do because we've eaten breakfast and, I just have some things to put away. Maybe, I want to start a load of laundry. Maybe that happens first thing in the morning. Maybe it happens towards the end of our morning together. Reading my Bible. Am I reading that first thing? Maybe, after I sit down for breakfast. Maybe it's after I've done some chores. It's kind of playing off the kids and how they're doing. So it's instead of having this really deep structure, it's having more fluidity in your day. And how can you do that? How can you shift that? So I do have an entire video on my morning routine or rhythm, and you can check that out so you can kind of see what that's like, but it's not something that's, like I said, super structured, and I think that we need that as moms. Okay, number 2 is just spending time in nature. I feel like I literally unravel when I'm in nature. And this doesn't mean that you have to, go take a walk in the woods, which I do love. I think it's amazing. But that's not typically how I'm getting out in nature. Typically, I'm stepping outside in the morning on my patio and just breathing in the fresh air. Sometimes I'm able to put my feet on the grass because I have grass, because it's not cold and snowy. Maybe it's just sitting outside with the kids and just watching them. Maybe it's listening to the birds. Maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's running to the park. Maybe it's running errands and just soaking in the in-between time in between errands while you're just able to just notice life around you, but just really being able to soak in nature. I've realized in this past year that water is so important to me, and by water I mean bodies of water, so your lakes and your oceans and just the beach. Oh my gosh, the beach. It just brings me back to center. And so finding those things in nature that do that for you, that kind of ground you. Okay, number 3 is going to be focusing on appreciation. Currently, I'm studying the difference between appreciation and gratitude. And for a long time, I would say I used toxic positivity within gratitude. And so I was, really forcefully trying to find gratitude for things. But if I just have appreciation, meaning, in a moment, we've been having a really hard morning maybe, and I see that my daughter helped pick up the table and I just appreciate that. Maybe we've been having a really rough day. The kids have not stopped crying, but then as I'm doing laundry, I hear in the other room, they're giggling and laughing at each other, and I appreciate that, right? And for me, that turns into gratitude. It turns into this thankfulness, this, oh, thank you so much. Often I'm praying along with that and saying, thank you, Lord, for giving me these moments of renewal and allowing that to renew me, right? But I have to be very intentional, and also open up my mind and my heart and my soul to be aware of those things. And those things start to happen the more that our nervous system begins to calm down. But these are just little ways that you can start incorporating softening to begin healing your nervous system. Number 4 is going to be reconnecting to the body. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I love my calming tools. Those are something that I use when I'm feeling frustrated or rage is coming on, or I'm kind of angry, or I'm just getting into a dysregulated state, and they just help to calm me back down. My favorite one is this one where I kind of warm my hands are a little cold right now, and then putting it over my heart and really pressing in. Taking some deep breaths here if that feels good. But I have 14 of them, and they just, I believe, help you to find a little way to regulate yourself in a moment when you feel like you're going to explode. They've just been critical in my practice and helping me to actually find regulation. But yeah, it doesn't have to be anything big or crazy, but You can do that. There's also something called orienting, which I could see happening, with nature. So maybe you're outside watching the kids, you start orienting to your space. This is something that Irene Lyon talks a lot about. It's something I do at the beginning of all my practices with my clients. And what I find is that then we bring on the body piece. And so a lot of times I'm kind of doing this, like activating the body. Maybe I'm like kind of rubbing my arms, right? Maybe I'm just rubbing my hands. Maybe I'm feeling, my thighs. Maybe I'm actually noticing my butt on my seat. Like my feet, are they crossed? Are they uncrossed? Like where are they at? So being able to notice those things is really helpful. Okay. The last thing is going to be understanding the phases of your cycle. I think part of softening is having realistic expectations. And so what I mean by this is, let's say that you are at the end of your cycle, you're coming up to menstruation and you are feeling more irritable. Well, of course you're feeling more irritable. Your hormones are, kind of, they're a little out of whack. I'll put it that way. But understanding what each season, what each part of your cycle means. Let me go back to here. So, for instance, in your beginning part of your cycle, you are more into planning. You're really into new beginnings. Once ovulation happens, you're more about actually doing the things, right? You might be more motivated to actually play with your kids or to, take them new places, to do new things, to try new things. Like it's more of a time for that. And then once you're in your, I think it's luteal, that's how you say that phase, you're kind of more focused. You finish projects. And so knowing that this part of my cycle, that's kind of how I'm wired, allows me to do that and to be okay that I'm not really so willing to try new things right now. I kind of just want to be where I'm at and be okay with that. I think there's also like a season where we're more willing to be out, exploring, meeting new people, even just interacting maybe with our friends. And then there's kind of this like hermit crab that comes out and we're like, what is wrong with me? Why don't I want to hang out with people? But it's just part of our cycle. And then the last phase, your menstruation, like we need more rest. So if you're feeling tired and if you're feeling irritable with your kids, just rest, just relax, just, be slow. Don't be, chaotic and crazy. Like this is because you're in that part of your cycle. And so I think that there's this acceptance, this understanding, and this acknowledgement that comes with knowing your cycle, where you're at in your cycle, and also understanding the phases. But I have not researched this like to its entirety or to its full. So I'm not feeling like 100% confident in talking about this. I do plan on doing a whole video once I'm done doing all my research. For right now, I'm just really learning how to surrender and accept and also be really realistic about what to expect of myself depending on what season I'm in. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that it encouraged you. I hope it gave you just a few little ways that you can begin softening. And I'm curious if there is something that I didn't add here that you're like, this helps me to soften into motherhood. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more content like this and you are not yet subscribed, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you have a mom friend who is struggling with motherhood and she needs some encouragement, I would love for you to send her this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.